of the team?
Well, this is a great opportunity for the United States to showcase their best gymnasts. In fact, they could very well dominate this competition. Of course, we have Christy Phillips, #1 ranked gymnast, but the Americans also have great depth. Sabrina Marr, top finisher at the World Championships 2 years ago. Hope Spivey, who is an extremely fiery competitor, and then there's Missy Marlowe, who many feel in this country could be one to beat. So all in all, we got some exciting gymnastics.
I know you like Missy. Now, what about the men? Two women have dominated recent Pan Am competitions. In Caracas, the Americans captured 3 of the 6 gold medals, and the 1987 team, led by Christy Phillips, is even stronger. This Bella Caroli-trained 15-year-old has won back-to-back American Cup championships. Since the retirement of Mary Lou Retton, Christy has been touted as America's best.
Hopefully we won't be surprised by anybody, and right now we are really confident about our team that we're putting up, and we're all just going to have to get out there and work as a team and just do the best that we can do for ourselves and for the team.
14-year-old Phoebe Mills is another American headliner. She, too, is in Houston, Texas, and trained by Bella Caroli. Mills has been working her way back from multiple fractures in her right heel. She hopes to be ready when the women's competition begins next week.
Just going to try and gradually, work up to my full ability. It's getting a lot better now, and, I'm not really quite sure what I'm going to do, but I'm just going to go out 100%.
Kathy, I know you've been working on the Phoebe Mills story since we got here. How is her health? Can she compete?
I just spoke to the United States team coach this morning, Greg Marsden, and he feels there's a 50-50 chance. She's not 100%, but she'll come on in, and they'll make the final decision right before the
Dome, where later today we'll have the finals of the women's championship in the all-around competition. And hello again, everybody. I'm Tim Brandt, along with Olympic medalist Kathy Johnson and Bart Connor. The United States women won the gold in the team competition earlier this week, breaking the old record by nearly 2 points, a record set way back in 1963 by the United States team. And Kathy, I'm wondering how indicative that win is to the strength of this team on worldwide competition.
Well, traditionally, the United States could win this competition by not sending their best. No doubt, this is the best team the U.S. could have put on the floor. But in order to keep it in perspective, we should compare them with the best teams in the world. The Soviets, Romanians, and East Germans are still the dominant teams, with the United States and several other teams fighting to move into medal contention by 1988. The girls are potentially very strong at this point, but considering their 6th place ranking, a bronze medal in World Championships or Olympics would be a tremendous victory for the United States.
All right, Kathy and Bart, I'm wondering how these girls can reach their potential when there's such little outside competition here.
Well, there was very little challenge for the U.S. team gold medal here, but I think there were some very important competitions going on among the girls on the U.S. team for 2 important reasons. One is the fact that Greg Marsden, the coach here, will also be the coach for the World Championships as well as next year's Olympics, so the U.S. team is definitely trying to impress him here. The other is the fact that the scores from the team competition do carry over to today's all-around as well as tomorrow's event finals. So with that in mind, let's take a look at some of the highlights of Thursday's team competition.
Christy Phillips set an early pace for the U.S. team with a very strong vault performance.
Christy was once considered a weak vaulter, but not anymore. Look at this. Round-up approach. Lay out Tsukahara with a full twist.
Head coach Greg Marsden liked that. The highest score of the competition was posted by another Bella Caroli student, Rhonda Fain.
Definitely the class of the meet here. Look at the height and the distance on that vault and a perfect landing.
.950. Now, Missy Marlowe approached her favorite apparatus, the uneven bars, aggressively and maintained the U.S. momentum.
Missy did a beautiful routine here. Look at the line on every handstand. Excellent stalder work there. She is so elegant on this event, which is so difficult for a gymnast to show on an event like the uneven bars.
Nice giant swing and a comb in each dismount in a tucked position.
Girls, nice job. Come here now. Come here.
But perhaps the most consistent performer was Sabrina Marr.
Sabrina is really tough in competition, and she shows that here on balance beam. Gainer layout, little bend in the knee, really the only deduction in the routine thus far. Round off, tuck double back dismount. Little short on the landing, but a great routine for Sabrina.
It was as if Sabrina Marr was making a statement. Marr was on crutches earlier in the year. She was unable to compete in the American Cup, but she's back.
You would have never known she had recently broken an ankle. She started with a layout double back. Great choreography. Middle tumbling run, whip back, through to a double twist. Nice and clean. Every move is sharp and exact.
Bright spot for Sabrina came right here, her dismount, a tuck double back. Watch how she nails this. Look at that face.
And somewhat surprisingly, Sabrina Marr is the top scorer for the U.S. team. Wrapping up the gold medal performance for the U.S., Christy Phillips.
She performed a very fast-paced routine, which included a full twisting double back at the beginning. She's not one of the strongest tumblers, but boy, can she pull it out when she needs to. Watch this last pass. Pike double back, just makes it.
So the United States women, with an impressive overall performance, won the gold with a record score. And the final standings look like this. The United States finished first by almost 10 points over Cuba. A 10-point lead in gymnastics is equivalent to a 100-point lead in basketball. So the U.S. win was indeed emphatic. And we'll be back for a look at today's all-around competition in just a moment. Welcome back to the Hoosier Dome, where coming up shortly, we'll have the finals of the all-around competition in women's gymnastics. Right now, let's take a look at the standings as we prepare for the finals. Now, these scores are obtained by taking half of the total points achieved during the compulsory and optional routines. Sabrina Marr of the United States is the leader. Christy Phillips is second. Kelly Garrison-Steeves is third, so it's all U.S. Now, here are the point totals for 4th, 5th, and 6th place, and you can see that 2 more United States women finished 4th and 5th. However, because of the rules, only 3 members of each team are allowed in the all-around competition, so those women were replaced, and the standings will look like this for today's championships. And right now, Kathy Johnson is with our leader, Sabrina Marr.
Sabrina, just 6 months ago, you were on crutches with a broken ankle. Now you find yourself in first place going in today's all-around competition. Must be a remarkable boost of confidence.
It is a great boost, this being only my second major meet, and I think it's going to help me in today's all-around competition.
What's it going to take for Sabrina Marr to win the all-around?
Just mainly aggressiveness and confidence, making sure that I hit everything perfectly.
Are there any critical points in the competition that when they're done, you can sigh kind of a breath of relief and know that you'll be all right?
You can't really breathe a sigh of relief until you're all done with the whole competition. And being last on bars, I think I'm going to be the very last competitor.
All right. Thanks a lot, Sabrina, and good luck. Back to you, Tim.
All right, Kathy, and she mentioned aggressiveness. I guess that's the key, Bart, especially going up against a Christy Phillips, who was just hundredths of a point off that lead.
Except for I've noticed the fact that Christy has looked, as I said earlier this week, Bella-less this week. Bella Caroli is not here, and Christy's used to having Bella here. He brings such an intensity and an excitement. He always brings the best out of his performers. So if Christy Phillips is going to do it today, she's going to have to do it without the help of Bella Caroli.
So we're all set. It's a United States finish. And when we come back, it'll be the all-around competition in the women's championship. Right now, let's go back to Brent Musburger at the CBS Broadcast Center.
Medal game. Let's start in the Hoosier Dome, and let's go out to Tim Brandt. Tim?
All right, Brent, gymnastics continues to be a big draw to the fans here in Indianapolis. Over 14,000 expected here today, and I'm sure they'll be vocal this afternoon since there are 3 Americans at the top of the leaderboard. And the truth of the matter is the United States team is in a class of its own here in the Pan American Games. Tim Brandt along with Kathy Johnson and Bart Connor, and only fractions separate the leaders, Kathy.
All 3 of these girls performed extremely well in the team competition. However, both Sabrina and Christy have areas in which they can improve on today. Sabrina was a little rough at the end of her bar routine, so potentially she could score even higher today.
And Christy Phillips fell off on a very basic move, a full turn on beam, so we can expect to see her do better there as well. But if either Sabrina or Christy have trouble, Kelly Garrison-Steeves will be right there to move into first place.
And while we prepare for the finals in women's competition of the all-around championships, let's go to John Dockery at the baseball venue. All right, Brent, welcome back to the Hoosier Dome, where we are expecting more than 14,000 fans for the finals of the women's championship in the all-around competition. Now, the top 3 performers are from the United States. In first place is Sabrina Marr, followed by Christy Phillips and Kelly Garrison-Steeves. Their scores have been achieved by taking half of their total score from both the compulsory exercises and optional routines. Actually, members of the United States team finished 4th and 5th. Missy Marlowe and Hope Spivey you can see there. But only 3 members from each team are allowed in the final round of this competition, so the U.S. gymnasts have been replaced. And hello again, everybody. I'm Tim Brandt, along with Kathy Johnson and Bart Connor. And while the athletes parade in here to the Hoosier Dome, why don't we talk a little bit about Sabrina Marr? And Kathy, I would think that a lot of people look at her as a surprise leader right now. How much pressure is on her?
Well, typically a gymnast in a leader position has a different type of pressure. Sometimes they become a little protective, trying to not make mistakes, and thus they're a little too conservative. I don't think we're going to see that in this competition because it is so close. Sabrina and Christy are neck and neck, and they both realize they're going to have to be aggressive to maintain or take the lead.
Bart, what about Christy Phillips, the national champion? She is just hundredths of a point off the lead, but she did struggle through optionals.
She did, but one of the important aspects of Christy Phillips as a gymnast is the fact that she has an unbelievable competitive drive. What she might lack in terms of technique, many times she makes up for in terms of style, pizzazz, showmanship, and that competitive experience. What we asked her after the team finals was how she feels coming into the all-around in 2nd place.
Well, I think it is a little more added pressure because I really wanted to come into the competition and just do the very best I can do. I had a few breaks today, and hopefully when I get to finals I can cover up.
We talked about Christy Phillips and how she struggled, guys, through the optionals. She fell off the beam. When's the last time you saw Christy do that?
I think the last time I saw Christy fall off beam was back in November in a U.S.-China dual meet. She had problems here on a very simple element. This was a strange mistake for Christy, obviously a lack in concentration. She mounted with a signature move, a front walkover sideways on the beam. And now right here, a very basic element, a full turn. She completely lost concentration. And of course, that's a major deduction.
Of course, we talk about falling off and being very basic, and yet that beam is only 4 inches wide and is 4 feet off the ground. All right, unlike the men's competition where there are 6 events, women's gymnastics has only 4 separate apparatus. Competitors will be performing simultaneously, so as a point of reference, Sabrina Marr, the leader, will perform on the balance beam in the first rotation. Christy Phillips will be on the floor exercise, while Kelly Garrison-Steeves goes on the uneven bars. Kathy, how would you like starting on the balance beam? To me, it seems like the toughest apparatus to begin on.
Well, Tim, there's pros and cons of starting on balance beam. One, it's very difficult because you got a little bit of nervous energy and you're really trying to control it. So you've got to really focus in. The pro is that when you're done, you're glad you finished balance beam and you've gotten it underway, and you can just be really aggressive for the other events.
This is a very young United States team. The average age of this year's club is 6 members, 16 years of age, compared to the women's team that represented the United States at the 1963 Pan American Games, which averaged 20 years of age and was at that time considered young.
We saw Christy Phillips warming up here. We've noticed all week long she hasn't looked as sharp as you were used to seeing. She's just barely making her tumbling elements.
Christy Phillips, 4 feet 10, 80 pounds, 15 years old, and this is the first time, Bart, that you mentioned earlier, she's without Bella.
And I really think that Bella is such an important factor in Christy's gymnastics because Bella has an intensity about him that allows his girls to compete right at their maximum potential. Christy needs that kind of motivation. If she's going to do it here, she's going to have to do it without Bella.
You know, earlier we talked with Christy and we asked her about being here at the Pan American Games without her coach, Bella Carolla.
It's a little different competing without Bella, but, you know, the training situation was more difficult than the competition because during the competition, you just have to get out there and do what you do. Bella can't help you with your routines. He's just there to motivate you and to keep your mind straight. But during practices, it is a little difficult because he's not there to really push you and motivate you during the practice. And that was the hardest part, getting through the practices.
Well, Bella's not here, but her parents are.
That's Christy's parents sitting in the stand.
Her dad looks a little more tense than does Christy. Once again, as we start the all-around competition, we remind you that there are 4 separate apparatus, and the gymnasts perform simultaneously. So there is a lot of action here at the Hoosier Dome. We'll start on the uneven bars. This is Elsa Chavas. Chavas is the oldest of the Cuban women, 22 years of age. She is also the most experienced Cuban gymnast in international competition, having performed countless times in Moscow, Romania, Hungary.
I'm so impressed with the Cubans' physical strength on all the apparatus. They're not as well trained as, say, a Soviet or an American team. A nice Delchev. It's not real precise on the handstands. It's not a bad exercise. Double flyaway.
You can see here she does a kip to a cast handstand on the high bar, free hip, and now she does a nice giant swing well over the bar. She needs to hit the handstand a little bit better. Here's a double flyaway. Look how she cranks those legs out in a cowboy position to help the rotation.
Chavas started in 4th position today. She also performed the Pan Am Games in both 1979 and 1983, so she is considered an old-timer by today's standards. This is Kelly Garrison Steves of the United States, attends the University of Oklahoma, currently in 3rd place. Kelly can't go, though, until there is a green light. They're waiting for the scorer, Chivas. There are 6 judges in women's gymnastics. They throw out the high score and the low score and then average in the 4 remaining scores.
One thing that would cause a conference is if the middle scores are not in range. Then they have to call in the judges and try and get them to alter the scores.
How difficult these conferences must be on the next gymnast like Kelly Garrison Steves here. Reminds me of the Olympics when you had a 9.6 on a strong beam routine. Everything stopped for 7 minutes while the judges conferred, and Julianne McNamara had to stand there for 7 minutes and think about it. That was on the beam.
It was very tough on Julianne. She stood up on the podium for quite a long time, particularly for balance beam. You've got a lot of things going through your head. But one thing you have to do is try and just remove yourself from the competition and focus on your routine.
And that conference also proved to be very advantageous because they changed her score from a 9.6 to a 9.75.
Very difficult on Julianne. She did have some problems right at the beginning of the routine that I've never seen Julianne have, ever.
Let's talk about Kelly Garrison Steves for just a moment while we do have this time. She is the oldest of the United States women. She's 20, student at the University of Oklahoma, and has just recently been married.
She married a gymnast from University of Oklahoma, Mark Steves.
Mark, by the way, is an excellent gymnast. He competed on the Oklahoma team and did a fine job there in the all-around for the University of Oklahoma this past year.
Still waiting the score on Elsa Chavas of Cuba.
I think for many times the gymnast, it's important to take a few minutes and not watch the judges.
There is her score, 9.475. And obviously she's not happy with that.
Oftentimes at the beginning of competition, the scores are a little tight, so it's not that advantageous to go first up on an apparatus.
Kelly Garrison-Steeves currently in 3rd place for the United States. The reigning NCAA all-around champion. She had a 9.7 Thursday night on the uneven bars in the optionals.
Moving quite well so far. It's a giant swing with a full turn over the top. Here's her release move. Nice delta. Little miss there, but a good cover-up. Free hip to handstand. And a pike double flyaway. A new dismount for Kelly.
Kelly did have some problems early. Transition moves on the low bar, but she got back up into the pike double back from a giant swing that was done very well. Nice and high. She landed with her legs a little straight and had to take a step. That'll be a 1/10 of a point deduction.
While we wait the score from Kelly Garrison-Steeves, Sabrina Marr, the current leader, preparing for the balance beam. Sabrina finished 3rd in the all-around competition at the national finals.
Sabrina's very tough on this event. She has a lot of control.
Sabrina is a veteran competitor who has had her share of ups and downs. For instance, she showed tremendous promise in 1985, was the national champion, and finished very high at the World Championships. But since that time, she has been plagued by injuries, most noticeably a back injury and then an ankle injury.
Her back injury put her out for quite a while. It's something she has to basically deal with every day, but it's not given her any trouble lately. Most recently, she did break her ankle and has come back so strong from it. I asked her right before the competition if it ever gives her any trouble.
Sabrina had ancient-style Chinese treatment for her back problem. As a matter of fact, she was treated by the same doctor who treated Tiffany Chin, the figure skater. Kelly Garrison-Steeves waiting for her score. It's a 9.70.
It's a good score for Kelly to start out this competition.
Yeah, pretty high score considering she had some troubles in the middle of the exercise, but she's got to be pleased with that one.
So that means Sabrina Marr now needs a 9.55 to stay ahead of Kelly Garrison-Steeves.
Round off, layout mount done absolutely perfectly.
She looks awfully confident.
She really does seem more assertive than I've ever seen her in competition.
This is a critical part. That handspring layout step out, one step back out of it, but that's not really a major deduction.
And the fact that she stepped out of it shows you that she's overdoing things, not underdoing things. That's how aggressive she's been in this competition.
Setting up her gainer layout. Excellent landing. This is better than in the team competition. Here comes her dismount. She needs to stick the landing to round off double back. And an excellent routine. That's when you're glad you have balance beam first and get it over with.
Sabrina Marr, the 1985 U.S. national champion.
Now this is her flip-flop layout step out. See how straight she is in line with the beam. And as Bart said earlier, a little over rotation.
This is a very important part of her routine, sticking the landing here. Round off, tuck double back. She was a little short in the team competition, but she is so aggressive here. Look how she pulls that around, finds the floor, and nails the landing.
Overcome so many injuries, the back problem, which kept her out of gymnastics for so long, and then the ankle.
And clowning around as if it doesn't even bother her.
Sabrina Marr is a straight A student and says she would like to pursue a career in sports medicine. And she seems qualified with her background.
She really got off to such a terrific start. As you mentioned, Kathy, there's such a tremendous relief once they finish balance beam. She should be home free from here, don't you think?
I believe so. And not only that, Bart, it puts a lot of pressure on the other girls that have to follow her on balance beam.
9.70, a very strong performance on the balance beam from Sabrina Marr. Well, let's check up a little bit later with baseball, but right now let's go back to Brent Musburger in the CBS Broadcast Center.
All right, Tim, the young United.
Welcome back to the Hoosier Dome, everybody. And as the gymnasts complete their first rotation, now move on to the next apparatus. Let us tell you that moments ago, Christy Phillips moved into an even closer position to Sabrina Marr in the standings with a brilliant performance on the floor exercise. And she now trails by only 12/1,000ths of a point. Now, she needed a 9.75 to move ahead of Sabrina Marr. Here's that performance by Christy Phillips, the current national all-around champion on the floor exercise.
And this performance was even better than in the team competition. Watch this full twisting double back. Good landing. I am always amazed at how she pulls out those double backs.
She's had this kind of style and pizzazz since she was a little girl, hasn't she, Kathy?
I've known Christy since she was about 5 years old, and she used to love performing. There's a double tuck. Had to step forward out of that, but many gymnasts would have touched it out.
Also on our table, Vice President of the Technical Committee of the International Gymnastics Federation from Jefferson, Iowa, Madam Jackie Pye.
You have to smile when you watch this routine. Looks like a lot of fun.
Although you have to admit, this wasn't an easy routine for Christy Phillips. She really honed in on making sure that she did this final pass perfectly, a pike double back.
Great landing. There's her mom and dad again watching.
Way better, way better, way better.
It's been said that Christy Phillips could become one of the best crowd gymnasts of all time.
This is where Christy shows her tremendous determination in competition. The full-in pike is not really that great. It certainly isn't very high. And look at, she just barely beats her head to the mat. She gets her floor down, her feet down, and you'd never know that she barely made it the way she sells that to the judges.
And again here, doing a tuck double back. Now you can see she had to step forward, but it's really not a deduction.
And her score, 9.725. It's a sport of microseconds and decimal points, and she is now, as I mentioned, just 1/12,000th of a point out of first place.
Here on her last tumbling run, she did a pike double back. This was the cleanest of the three moves because she pulled it around a little bit easier than I expected that she'd landed at the end of the exercise. A very difficult dismount. Well done.
So now we move on from the first rotation on to rotation number 2. And we see that Sabrina Marr will now go on to the floor exercise. Christy Phillips will be on the vault. Kelly Garrison-Steeves on the balance beam. And we should mention that Kelly Garrison-Steeves, very unusual for a gymnast in that she says the balance beam, one of the toughest apparatus to perform on, is her favorite event.
Well, if you've watched Kelly on balance beam, you can understand why it's her favorite. She's uncanny on this event. Her sense of balance and the movement on the balance beam is extraordinary.
This concludes our warm-up period. Our judges will now receive...
Kelly Garrison-Steeves has been dominating the collegiate side of this sport. She is not as clearly dominant in the national and world competitions. In the optional, she had a 9.65.
Kelly's been good on the beam since she was 12 years old when she was an alternate for the 1980 U.S. Olympic Gymnastics team.
Now watch this mount and then into her first pass. It's a very difficult mount. Round off, tuck back on. Little problem, but she recovered. 2 back handsprings to another back tuck. Good landing.
Kathy, how does it affect the rest of your routine when you get off to a shaky start like that?
For a gymnast like Kelly, it really doesn't affect her. She just keeps right on moving and gets into the groove of things. This is a very original and unique move that Kelly made up. Already, in the first half of her balance beam routine, she does more difficulty than anyone else in the competition. And a beautiful turn to a balanced position. Here's probably the riskiest move. A cartwheel layout, step out. Now that was a save.
One of the great things about Kelly's style on the beam, as she does her Garrison roll there, a shoulder roll without using her hands, is the fact that she rarely waters down. She's always doing a full-out routine.
Kelly's not afraid to take chances. Here's a new dismount. Round off, double tuck, and a perfect landing. There, but it should actually score still quite well. We'll take another look at the dismount. You can't land it any better than this. Good lift, good rotation, and look at that.
Sabrina Marr waiting to go into the floor exercise, our current leader in the all-around finals. While we wait for Kelly Garrison-Steeves' score, Sabrina Marr mentally preparing for the floor exercise.
This was a very good routine for her in the team competition, as well as a crowd favorite. She opens with a very difficult tumbling run, a double layout. Oh, perfect! That is such a difficult pass to do.
And how can you go wrong with music so born in the USA?
Positions are very effective. the competition. That's her coach, Don Peters.
While she was performing, Kelly Garrison-Steve got a 9.65 on the balance beam, which means Sabrina Marr now needs 9.5 to stay ahead of Garrison.
We were so impressed in the team competition how she handled her layout double back mount, a very difficult mount. You can see here today she nailed this thing even better than in the team finals. Look at the tremendous determination in that face. Round off back handspring, and right here, boom, layout double back in a stretch position. She pikes in just a little bit, but look at the landing. Chest up, and she knows she's got it.
9.875, and she remains solidly in first place. Sabrina Marr. Christy Phillips now needs a 9.5 to stay ahead of Kelly Garrison-Steves in second place. Now, as she prepares for the vault, let us tell you that in women's gymnastics, they take 2 passes at the vault and take the best score. She had a 9.825 Thursday night on the vault in the optionals.
Christy has really improved in this event. Ever since they came out with the round-off approach vault, she's become much stronger.
What we've been waiting to see from Christy Phillips, that fighting instinct that she shows so well in competition. She has tremendous speed here into the board. Round off, good approach, excellent push from the horse, and look at the form in the air. And of course, talking about nail in a landing.
She also gets more distance than she usually gets on this vault. Good lift. And lands farther from the horse than usual.
And her score is 9.825, so that keeps Christy Phillips in second place. A 9.9 on this next vault. She could overtake Sabrina Marr.
It's really going to be tough to improve on that last vault. I think the first vault was better.
Nice job. Very well done, okay? Nice job. Good.
We talked about her trying to improve on that first vault. What she was doing here, obviously, was trying to get more distance from the horse. She had good height, but she was trying to take it out farther away from the horse so the judges would notice that. Well, as a result, she over-rotated just a little bit and took a hop on the landing. Look at that face as she barrels down the runway. Really nice in the air. Everything looked pretty clean. She had a little too much juice, and of course over-rotation caused that hop, which will be a minor deduction.
She needs a 9.9 to overtake Sabrina Marr and move into first place. She has already solidified second place on her first vault. There's Greg Marsden, the head coach of the United States. He's also a very successful coach on the collegiate level. Marsden has had 6 national women's champion teams at Utah.
And there's his assistant coach, Donna Kozo, and of course Don Peters as well.
Christy Phillips gets a 9.775, so the first vault holds, and she remains solidly in second place. And the standings after 2 rotations look like this. Sabrina Marr holding on to a slim lead in first place, followed by Christy Phillips and Kelly Garrison-Steves. Now let's go back to Brent Musburger in the CBS Broadcast Center. Welcome back to the Hoosier Dome as we prepare for the third of 4 rotations in the women's all-around finals. Actually, they are now in the midst of the third rotation. The standings after 2 events has Sabrina Marr holding on to that very slim lead over Christy Phillips. That lead, by the way, has been slightly, ever so slightly, increased here in this third rotation. Sabrina held on to that lead with a very strong performance on the floor exercise in the second rotation. Let's go back now and take another look and listen to Sabrina's coach, Greg Marsden, during this performance.
Stay strong. Stay strong. Push. Go, go, go. Woo! Yes!
I think he liked it. Now in the third rotation, Sabrina Marr moved on to the vault. Christy Phillips took the uneven bars, and Kelly Garrison-Steeves moved on to the floor exercise. And Sabrina Marr helped herself immensely with a very strong, aggressive vault performance.
This was an unbelievable vault for Sabrina. And this is what exciting gymnastics is all about. They're going to have to be near perfect to win this meet. Round off, layout took her out with a full twist, and look at the landing.
I think Sabrina really realizes that she's right on. She seems to have tremendous speed here, but she knows throughout the competition that she is right on her game plan. Everything is going right the way she can expect. Terrific work.
It's great to see her not get too cautious here. She just goes way back into it and goes for the landing.
Her score was a 9.875 on that strong vault performance, which meant that Christy Phillips needed a 9.95 to take the lead. Now here's the second vault. She tried to top that 9.875. And she told you, Kathy, prior to this event, that she was going to be aggressive today, had to take risks. She's been true to her word.
She's doing exactly that. Good approach. Little hop of a landing. It's her coach again, Don Peters. Sure, he's pretty pleased with that vault.
You can see here, I think she was trying to get a little more distance, as was Christy Phillips in the second vault. Still, once again, she has beautiful position in the air. Minor hop on the landing, so it won't score as well as the first vault.
Sabrina, being aggressive, knew that she needed a very good score to keep that lead. Heading into this rotation, her lead was only 65 one-thousandths of a point over Christy Phillips. And yet she's cheering Christy on.
Come on, Christy!
Our sport is really unique in that you're not really out trying to beat someone. You have no control over what they do. You want to see your competitors do just as well, and you come out on top.
9.875 on her second vault, the same as the first, so she'll carry that on. Now, Christy Phillips knew what Sabrina Marr had on the vault, and she also knew that she needed a 9.95 to take the lead on the uneven bars.
Christy, this is probably her weakest event.
And without a doubt, we've noticed all week long she's been laboring to the handstands on this event.
This giant swing to a reverse heck. Now watch this. Unique little move, a Jaeger between the bars.
You can see a little trouble on the cast a handstand and big arch in the giant and a little shorter rotation on the pike double back.
Nice, baby. Nice job.
Her mom and dad urging her on. Christy Phillips, though, knowing that it was not her best performance.
Okay, get ready for it.
Might not have been her best performance, but it's a steady performance for her on this event.
You can see she was a little short of rotation here. Takes a hop on the landing, and not the typical Christy Phillips stick the landing style.
Christy received a 9.725 on that uneven bars, and obviously not very happy. So as we continue and wait Kelly Garrison-Steeves' performance, we'll be back with more gymnastics competition right after this message. We're back at the Hoosier Dome waiting for Kelly Garrison-Steeves to perform on the floor exercise. Right now, Elsa Chivas of Cuba is on the mat. Kelly Garrison-Steeves currently in 3rd place in the standings. She would need better than a 10, which is an impossibility to take the lead. So Kelly Garrison-Steeves just trying to be consistent, be aggressive, and do the best as she possibly can on the floor exercise. These are the standings now in the 3rd rotation. Keep in mind there are 4 events in women's gymnastics. Sabrina Marr still holds that lead over Christy Phillips, albeit very slight, and Kelly Garrison-Steeves in 3rd place.
Kelly is a very interesting story. At 12 years old, she was national champion on balance beam and floor exercise. And then shortly after that, she got out of gymnastics for a couple of years, competed in high school, was a cheerleader, and then came back. Decided she hadn't had enough, and she's better than ever.
Have fun.
Well, she's the reigning NCAA all-around champion. Attends the University of Oklahoma, a member of the class of 1990.
This is really a critical event for Kelly. She's doing a middle tumbling pass that is new for her, and it's very difficult.
Sabrina Marr, our leader, and being very strong about it. She's waiting to perform on the uneven bars, waiting for the 3rd rotation to end. And Christy Phillips continues to stay loose. Christy Phillips will move on to the balance beam. But right now, it's Kelly Garrison-Steeves on the floor exercise.
Kelly has a very mature style on floor exercise. Shows a lot of elegance.
This is, by the way, her favorite event, the floor X.
She's going to open with a triple twist, trying to improve on the landing. Wasn't a bad landing. Legs were a little bit apart on the landing.
Kathy, in the optional, she went out of bounds there. Could that have been a concern?
Well, to go out of bounds is 1/10 of a point off.
Here's definitely the critical tumbling run. It's a 1.5 to a tuck double back.
All right, she made it.
She was out of bounds, however, on that one. I noticed that her foot touched the white line, and of course, as you mentioned, Kathy, that'll be a 1/10 of a point deduction.
She actually reminds me of a Soviet gymnast, Natalia Yurchenko. Very exotic in her dance. Final tumbling run, a double twist. It's not the most difficult dismount done here, but she did it well. That's her coach looking on, Becky Buick. Let's take a look at this first pass. She doesn't really have trouble with the twist. It's a good takeoff. 1, 2, 3. Legs are a little apart on the landing. Caused a slight stumble.
Now, this was a really nice pass. She does the 1.5 twist, right here, through to a round-off back handspring tuck double back. I know she's glad to have made it. She's not too worried about going out of bounds because she just pulls it around and her heel, her left heel touches out of bounds, and of course that's a 1/10 of a point deduction.
To the fourth and final rotation. We'll be back with Kelly Garrison's score right there, 9.575. And we'll be back with more gymnastics, the final event, after this message. More than 14,000 gymnastic fans here at the Hoosier Dome enjoying the finals of the women's competition in the all-around. And the standings as we head into the fourth and final rotation, Sabrina Marr leading by almost 2/10 of a point over Christy Phillips, who is in second place. Kelly Garrison-Steeves of the United States is in third, so it's an all-United States field. Now, as we head into the final rotation, the final event, let us take a look at the apparatus each one of the women will be on. Sabrina Marr moves on to the uneven bars. Christy Phillips will be on the balance beam, and Kelly Garrison-Steeves will be on the vault. Now, a reminder that in the optionals Thursday night, Christy Phillips struggled on the balance beam and fell off for one of the very few times in her career. Let's go back and look at this, Kathy.
Such an unfortunate break for Christy, and something I never see her do. She starts off with one of her original moves, a front limber. Now watch this, a full turn, a requirement on a balance beam, fairly basic, and had serious problems.
This is Christy Phillips, the current national all-around champion, winner of the U.S. Championships, consecutive winner of the American Cup.
Now you know in the back of her mind she's got to be thinking about that full turn. She nails the front limber. Now here it is. And she does it perfectly. Pass for Christy. Round off, layout, step out.
That may do it. Sabrina Marr, by the way, will be up last in this rotation on the uneven bars.
The round off really looked rushed going into the layout, step out. I think that's what the problem was. Back handspring chest roll. After the last event, uneven bars, here's that Phillips.
That to me looks anatomically impossible.
Well, it is for me. Her spirits did seem a little bit down after the uneven bars. That might have been the problem. Side somersault. And the dismount, round off, double pike, little over rotation. She's not very happy with that.
Nor is mom and dad watching.
It's really not typical of Christy to fall, particularly twice in a row in a competition.
A reminder that our coach, Bella Caroli, and Marta Caroli are not here for this competition.
Now let's take a look at this round-off layout and see what the problem was. Seemed straight there. A little rush going back to the layout step-out, which she was short on rotation. Whenever you're short on rotation, that second leg coming around comes down too quickly and cuts to the side.
Emotionally drained, waiting for her score, Christy Phillips.
She's a tough competitor. I'm sure she can come back from this. It's hard right now.
Major competition that she will be preparing for is the Rotterdam World Championships this fall. Very important to the international acceptance and success of Christy Phillips. You have to wonder how much Bella not being here has affected her performance.
Well, As she said in her interview, Bella is a very strong influence. She's a great motivator.
Her score, 9.350. And we'll be back with more gymnastics competition after this message. Welcome back to gymnastics, everybody, at the Hoosier Dome, where we are in the 4th and final rotation, and the final standings are starting to take shape. Christy Phillips has just fallen off the apparatus one more time, and her score has dropped her possibly into 3rd place. Right now, Bart Connor is with Christy Phillips.
Christy, you're the kind of gymnast that America likes to see do well. It wasn't there today, was it?
No, I just got a little down on myself after my floor routine and after my vault, and I just let it get the best of me.
We know that Bella Caroli's not here. Do you think that was a disadvantage to you in this competition?
Well, Greg was a national team coach here. I did miss Bella being here. He didn't, you know, he wasn't here to motivate me, but Greg did a good job, and he did as much as he could. It was my fault.
Well, hang in there. You're going to be great.
Okay. Thanks.
Sabrina Marr yet to come in the 4th and final rotation. She needs a 9.15 to win the gold. Right now, let's go back to Brent Musburger in the CBS Broadcast Center. Brent. We're back live at the Hoosier Dome for the finals of women's gymnastics in the all-around competition. And what a story that has developed here. Christy Phillips has fallen off the balance beam in the 4th and final rotation. And Sabrina Marr, up next on the uneven bars, needs a 9.15 to win the gold medal. Kelly Garrison-Steeves, another U.S. performer, is waiting to perform on the vault, and she needs a 9.85 to move ahead of Christy Phillips and into 2nd place. But the story right now is Sabrina Marr going after the gold. An emotional Christy Phillips looking on is right. And she has been emotional. It's not very often that she has come up short in a major competition.
You couldn't have written a better script for this competition. They both ended up on what's considered to be their best event. Sabrina on the uneven bars, Christy on the balance beam.
Sabrina Marr is of Chinese origin. Her name means horse in Mandarin. And she has been a horse today. Her career has been plagued by injuries. She's had severe back problems. She had a badly injured ankle, but she has come back strongly.
This is the strongest physically I've ever seen Sabrina look.
Those injuries kept her out of this year's American Cup. So this performance in the Pan American Games means a great deal to Sabrina Marr.
Straddle over mount. Look at the beautiful handstands. Reverse hecht way up there. Flyaway half right over the low bar. Moving very well. Again, she's as aggressive as always. And a double tuck flyway. Little step on the landing, but a great performance. And the crowd loves it.
While we wait for Sabrina Marr's score to determine the gold, let's go over to Kelly Garrison-Steeves. She needs a 9.85 to move into 2nd place ahead of Christy Phillips.
That's going to be tough. Not impossible, but tough. Round off, tuck Sukahara with a full twist and a great landing. She went for it. It's not as difficult as the layout Sukaharas we've been seeing with full twist, but it was done so well.
Sabrina Marr, 9.750. She wins the gold medal. The only thing still up in the air now, the silver and the bronze. as we wait for the score of Kelly Garrison Steeves. Now keep in mind, the women are allowed 2 passes on this apparatus, and they take the best score of the 2.
Regardless of the score, Kelly has to be happy with that vault. It is new for her, and she did it so well.
9.775. Not enough. She has one more chance at the silver medal as Christy Phillips looks on.
It'd be hard for Kelly to improve on that vault, but you never know with this vault. Sometimes you come on just right, you can really blast it up there.
There have only been 2 10s handed out since the 1984 Olympics. Rhonda Fain and Christy Phillips both on this event.
She tried a layup vault. She has my respect for going for that vault. She was a little short on the pre-flight. You could see her hands on the inside of the horse.
Again, she needs a 9.85 to move into second place.
Don't think she's going to do that. Now watch from this angle. You can't really see that she almost misses the horse, but she does go for the layout vault, a more difficult vault, in hopes of getting a higher score. Being one of the oldest members on the team, she's got to be happy with this performance. She's coming on stronger than ever.
We mentioned that Kelly Garrison Steeves has been dominant on the college side of this sport, not clearly as much on the national and world side. 9.575 her score. So she finishes with the bronze. Christy Phillips remains in second place with the silver, and Sabrina Marr, the gold medal winner. Let's go back, Kathy, and take a look at the gold medal performance by Sabrina Marr.
This was a tremendous routine for Sabrina. Nice stalder work. Really high on that reverse hex. Now a second release move. It's called a ginger or a flyaway half. She's got to know here that she's got it. And a tough double flyaway.
She only needed a 9.15, which is not a very high score. She could have remained very basic, and yet, Kathy, she stayed aggressive and took some risks.
I think this competition was important for Sabrina.
So the final standings then, Sabrina Marr in first takes the gold, Christy Phillips takes the silver, Kelly Garrison takes the bronze. Right now, let's go to Bart Connor with the winner.
Sabrina, you started the year on crutches. Could you have expected by August you'd be the Pan American Games all-around champion?
I had no idea. I was just hoping to place in championships at that time, and being this only my second major meet, I was very pleased.
You know, this year and this competition was your event. I mean, right from the word go, you were in control. Why do you think it happened this way this time?
I think from all the faults and valleys I had last year, I think I owe it to myself to win this one just for me.
Well, congratulations. We're happy for you.
Thanks.
Back to you, Tim.
Sabrina Marr, 17 years old, from Monterey Park, California, wins the gold in the all-around individual women's competition. So it's Sabrina Marr, followed by Christy Phillips and Kelly Garrison Steeves, an all-U.S. final. Right now, let's go back to Brent Musburger in the CBS Broadcast Center. Brent?
All right, Tim, and meanwhile, for the Americans, 1, 2, 3 for the gold, silver, and bronze. They had the award ceremony a short time ago. Let's send you back now to Tim Brandt. Tim?
More than 14,000 gymnastic fans were entertained here this afternoon with a marvelous performance by the U.S. women who swept the competition. Sabrina Marr takes the gold with a record-breaking score, followed by Christy Phillips and Kelly Garrison Steeves. And just moments ago, we had the emotional medal ceremony. For Bart Cotter and Kathy Johnson, I'm Tim Brandt. Right now, let's go back to Brent Musburger in the CBS Broadcast Center. Brent?
And, Tim, we have an update on the baseball action.
All right, Brent, and welcome back to the Hoosier Dome for the women's finals of the individual event competition. And to this point, gymnastics has been dominated by the United States. Earlier in the week, the 6 United States women won the gold medal in the team competition with a record-breaking score here at the Pan American Games. And yesterday, led by Sabrina Marr, the U.S. finished 1, 2, 3 in the all-around competition. And hello again, everybody. I'm Tim Brandt, along with Bart Conner and Kathy Johnson. And Bart, I'm concerned, or not concerned, curious to know how Christy Phillips will do in this. She did not qualify for her favorite event, the balance beam. She comes in now. She's in 2 events today. Do you think she'll win a gold medal?
Well, I think it's going to be very difficult for Christy Phillips to come away with an individual gold here today. First of all, she's competing in the vault and the floor exercise, not 2 of her strongest events, and she doesn't have really strong preliminary scores coming into this competition. But I think she has a very important challenge here today. I think she needs to show the gymnastics community that, hey, I'm back, even though I didn't win the all-around competition, and this could be a very important confidence booster for her going into the World Championships in October in Rotterdam. On the other hand, Sabrina Marr has looked so terrific all week long. Sabrina has had an excellent competition. She comes into these finals in 3 events with an excellent opportunity for medals in each of those events, but especially on the floor exercise where she's leading, and she has an opportunity to set a new Pan American Games record there.
Kathy, how do you see it? It has been all United States to this point. That's been well documented. But coming into the individual events, do you see the other countries having a shot now?
Well, Tim, this is a great opportunity for some of the Cuban gymnasts like Luisa Prieto, Tanya Guia, and Elsa Chivas to possibly challenge the United States gymnasts and take home some medals. Also, Luisa Ribeiro of Brazil has a chance at a medal on the uneven bars. It's a very close competition on every event, so I think we're going to see another exciting competition.
Okay, Kathy. The gymnasts will perform in Olympic order, only 1 event at a time, starting with the vault, followed by the uneven bars, the balance beam, and the floor exercise. Now, in the individual event finals, the top 8 gymnasts on each apparatus are selected to compete, determined by their compulsory and their optional scores. And as you look at the standings on the vault, I'll tell you that each country is allowed only 2 gymnasts. So once again, the United States, which had most of the top scorers, will be limited to just 2 competitors on each apparatus. Now, the first event is the vault, and as opposed to what you may have seen in the all-around where it was the best score of 2 vaults, today it's the average of both jumps, and this is Adriana Ruiz. That's her second vault. Adriana Ruiz of Venezuela. She had a 9.125 on her first vault. Now they will average the 2 scores here, and that will be her final score for this vault.
Now, she was doing a layout Tsukahara. It's not real strong off of the horse. You can see the arms bend. Good position in the air, but look at the step out of it. It's a pretty big deduction there.
Second score, 9.425.
9.425 for a total of 18.787. She is the first competitor on the vault. This is Tatiana Figueiredo of Brazil, 19 years old, from Rio de Janeiro. However, she attends school here in the United States at Oklahoma University.
Actually, that was, I think it was supposed to be a layout Tsukahara, and she actually piked on the after flight. Not a real strong vault. She almost looks like she slows down going into the horse. And again, she doesn't open up into the position.
It looked like here, as you mentioned, Kathy, she backed off a little bit as going into the board, which cut down her speed, which of course will cut down your height and your post flight as well.
If it was supposed to be a pike Tsukahara, it's a fairly weak vault for a finals. She'll probably do a layout Tsukahara here for her second vault.
9.20, the first score for Tatiana Figueiredo of Brazil.
Now keep in mind the girls have to do 2 vaults here. They're taking the average of the 2 vaults, and the vaults have to be from different families.
And a layout Tsukahara, much better than the first ball.
Tatiana Figueiredo, she began her career in gymnastics in 1977. She's a sophomore at the University of Oklahoma.
She has actually better speed on this ball. Much better form in the air.
And you can see here she really opens her body up here with a tremendous stretch right there, and then she pikes it in. That's the nice style on a layout Tsukahara. It'll score much better than the first vault, I'm sure.
9.475. And that gives her a total of 18.900. That's the top score right now. Adriana Duffy of Puerto Rico.
Not a real fast run. A layout Tsukahara. I didn't think she was going to have enough to get that one over.
You can see she's obviously a very strong girl. She's very powerful. And it seemed to me, as you mentioned, Kathy, she backed off going into the board right here, hoping to basically muscle this vault. She was behind, way back on the board. Her hands didn't quite get in good position on the horse. And, of course, once you have all the problem in the pre-flight, there's not much you can do in the post-flight to correct.
Duffy is our third gymnast on this first apparatus, the vault. She has her second pass coming. This is Rhonda Fain of the United States, who had the high scorer on this apparatus throughout the competition. That was in the optionals, a 9.95.
Only one.
This will be Duffy's second jump.
Score 8.90.
And her second jump will be averaged with this 8.90.
Now the second ball.
She's looking to improve on that first vault. Hopefully get a little more speed on the run. Handspring front. Oh, ran right out of that ball.
We'll give you that score in just a moment, but let's look at Rhonda Fain. And with the weaker vaulters ahead of her, Rhonda only needs a 9.065 to take the lead. Right now, let's go back to Thursday, where she hit that solid 9.95.
This is a very exciting vault for Rhonda. She does a round-off approach and a layout Tsukahara full off the horse. That's the way you're supposed to do it.
Rhonda Fain scored a perfect 10 on this apparatus at the United States Championships earlier this year. And there have only been 2 10s since the 1984 Olympics, when we had the vault without fault from Mary Lou Retton. Rhonda is 16 years old, coached by Bella Caroli.
A repeat of that vault we just saw would just about ensure a gold medal on this event for Rhonda.
9.20 for Adriana Duffy. And again, because of the weaker vaulters ahead of Rhonda, Fain needs only a 9.065 to take the lead.
Now remember, you have to do 2 different vaults, so I believe Rhonda will probably do a tuck Tsukahara with a full twist for her first vault. Very nice vault. She's so consistent on this vault, the way she goes back and gets onto the horse just perfectly.
Good push. Hips in, reach for the landing. Hey, go for it now. Thanks. Go. Tall. Push.
The words of Greg Marsden, the head coach of the United States team.
Watch how precise she is on the board. Perfect position. Right on top of the horse to get a good push on. It's a good angle to really see the push that Rhonda gets off the horse.
9.80 for Rhonda Fain. That score will be averaged in with her second jump coming up.
Now this is Rhonda's strongest vault. She'll do the same vault except in layout position. That was a missed vault. As you could see, she was a little off on the board, went back into the horse a little bit too hard, had to bend her arms, and really aborted the vault, actually. Let's take a look again. A lot of speed going in on the horse. She was a little too far on the end of the board. Really unfortunate for Rhonda. Here you can see the bent arms, poor position on the horse.
Stacey told me to tell you that you were back on the board on your first vault, but I didn't want to tell you because I didn't want you to, think about it. If I would, it would just feel like you're on the board wrong.
Yeah, I was waiting. You have to keep in mind that the powerhouses on vault are yet to come. So even though she needs a fairly low score to take the lead, those vaulters coming after her are very strong.
Listening to Christy Phillips and Rhonda Fain speak, and Christy had a little advice for her and said she was afraid to give it to her earlier, that it may mess her up mentally.
You get a deduction for doing that.
It's only 5 cents deduction. It's pretty good vault.
Awaiting the scores of the 6 judges here in women's gymnastics, the top score and the low score are thrown out, and the rest are averaged together for the aggregate score.
It's a very difficult vault to score because there is a 5/10 deduction for doing the wrong vault. Then they have to judge the vault she actually did.
Rhonda joined the national team in 1987, so she's a relative newcomer. She earned a spot on this team by finishing 6th in the all-around at the recent championships of the United States. Coached by Bella Caroli.
I know how you feel. I know how you feel.
The next gymnast up is Oriana Mendez of Cuba. How much pressure does that put on her while she waits for the conversation of the judges? 8.963, her second vault, so that will definitely hurt Rhonda Fain in the standings. Her total, 19.218. She ranks first, but the stronger gymnasts are yet to come, and we'll be back with more gymnastics competition after this message. On the vault.
Kind of an unusual looking vault. She actually almost handspringed on, which is a front entry vault, and did like a branny out. Want to see this vault again. Watch the pre-flight. It's like a tensica on, front with a half off. Very similar to a Sukahara with a full twist.
Mendez had a 9.575, excuse me, Kathy, on her first jump.
She's not very clean in the air, and as you could see, the landing was not that good.
9.595 is what she needs total to take the lead.
Be interesting to see how they score that vault.
The vault is an interesting event in that it matches you against gravity. You just cut it loose at full speed, and the landing should be, as you said, just stick it.
Well, vaulting has really changed over the past few years. You notice a lot of the girls are doing the round-off entry vaults. In fact, the next few vaulters will be doing that same vault. And it's really improved the vault as a whole. They're much more dynamic, much higher, and more exciting vaults.
How critical, Kathy, is the speed in this event? I mean, all of us, you're going horizontal, and suddenly you have to punch it and go vertical.
It's more important when you're doing a traditional vault, which is a front entry vault. But with a round-off vault, you still need a good speed.
9.550 for Mendez, which gives her a total of 19.188. She is still in second place, behind Rhonda Fain of the United States. This is Luisa Prieto of Cuba. She is 19 years old, from Havana, has been on the Cuban national team for 6 years. She needs a 9.425.
She is a dynamite vaulter. Round off, tuck Tsukahara with a full twist. The same vault that Rhonda did for her first vault, and very comparable to Rhonda's.
Rhonda Fain is still the leader. Prieto needs a 9.425 total to take the lead.
Very good entry. As you notice, she was very light on her hands on the horse. Ideally, that's what you want. The timing on this vault is crucial, and the placing of the hands as well. And she's got it just right on.
Luisa Prieto of Cuba. She first got involved in this sport back in 1977 and actually performed in Caracas with the Cuban team at the Pan Am Games.
Now for her second vault, I believe she's doing the vault that Rhonda wanted to do for her second vault. Lay out Tsukahara with a full twist.
9.775 her first vault, her second vault coming up.
Now she came into this event with a 9.8, so a good steady vault here could give her the lead. It's actually very good onto the horse, just lacked a little bit of rotation, fairly large step at the end. She needs a 9.075 to take the lead. She should be able to do that fairly easily. Started out to be a good vault. Little too much pike in the layout position. And again, she was short on that landing. So actually a little bit short on the horse as well, which caused the lack of rotation.
And that giant step there, of course, will be a deduction of a tenth.
Probably 2 to 3 tenths.
Rhonda Fain is our leader. We still have what I call the heavyweights coming up, including Christy Phillips and Laura Rodriguez of Cuba.
I'm sure she would have liked to have done a better vault. I've seen her do that vault better. Much more laid out.
How important is the placing of the hands, Kathy, as to the final stick?
Well, on this vault, it's crucial. You're going back. It's a blind move. It's like a giant back handspring from the board to the horse. And there's no time. You have to just really get those hands on the horse.
Again, the 6 judges taking their time, putting up a score as Christy Phillips prepares. Christy Phillips staying loose. It'll be Laura Rodriguez up next of Cuba, followed by Christy Phillips, and the score is 9.525 for Luisa Prieto of Cuba. That gives her a total now of 19.450 and moves her into the lead ahead of Rhonda Fain. This is Laura Rodriguez of Cuba. Only 15 years old, but she's been in this sport since she was 5. She lives and trains in Havana. She's been on the national team for 2 years. This is her favorite event.
And I can see why. Round off entry, layout Tsukahara. She is so power-packed. That's why vaulting's such a good event for her. Good speed, good position, nice straight arms, and look at the position in the air.
While we wait for Luisa Prieto's score, let's go downstairs to Bart Connor.
Talking about having stars in your eyes, well, I'm joined by a whole bunch of gymnasts with stars in their eyes. Glad to have you all here. Are you enjoying the competition so far?
Yeah.
Well, let's talk first of all to Phoebe Mills, who, of course, as America knows, did not compete here because of an injury. How are you feeling now, and when should we expect to see you in competition again, Phoebe?
Well, my heel is getting a lot better. I'm starting to feel really good and getting back into shape. And, hopefully I'll be 100% for World Championships.
And when are they?
October.
Well, best of luck. Christy had a rough time here, though, your old teammate. How do you feel about her performance here?
Well, I guess she just had a really bad meet, but I guess it was better to get it over with now than at the World Championships, and so we should have a good competition there.
She's coming up on the vault. What do you think about her performance here?
She should do really well on vault. It's one of her stronger events, so I'm sure she can place really high in that event.
Okay. Best of luck to her, and best of luck to you, Phoebe. Thanks for joining us, girls. Back to Tim.
All right, Bart, 9.838 is the score for Laura Rodriguez.
Layout cigar with a full twist and a good landing. What's so remarkable about this vault is how fast she gets her hands off the horse and up over her head.
She needs a 9.739 to take over first place from Luisa Prieto.
Everything is just perfect. Good straight arms. And opens up out of the twist, lays it out, and then sticks. She noticed on a lot of the other vaulters they had bent arms on the horse. That's a deduction, and there's very little deduction here.
Score
9.90. The highest score of the afternoon gives her a total of 19.582. She is now our leader, Laura Rodriguez of Cuba. Christy Phillips up next for the United States. The top gymnast in the United States, winner of the U.S. Championships, consider the best on the United States team, although she has struggled here at the Pan American Games.
She's got to stick this vault. Little hop there at the end. Scores are so tight, though, she's going to have to be near perfect.
Okay. Stretch, nice and fast. Good stretch. Push. Strong.
The voice of Greg Marston, the head coach of the U.S. women.
Like most of the girls, doing the round-off entry vault. Fairly straight arms, good position in the air. Had to take that hop back.
Christy needs a 9.832 to take the lead.